ونعوذ به من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه الطيبين الطاهرين وعلى من تبعهم وعمل بعملهم واستنى بسنتهم إلى يوم الدين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. أما بعد. All praise and thanks and gratitude be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless our Prophet and Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We seek refuge in Allah from the evils of our own selves and from the wrongs of our deeds. Whoever is guided by Allah will never go astray, and whoever goes astray can only be guided by Allah. I bear witness that there is no God worthy of worship except Allah alone, without partners. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is Allah's messenger, prophet and servant. I remind myself and I remind you to follow the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and to apply them to your daily lives. My dear brothers and sisters, today's khutbah inshallah is one that I wish I would not have to give, but I do feel that it's necessary from time to time to remind ourselves of this very important and core topic in our Islamic values and mannerisms. And the reason that I felt it was time to revisit this issue again is because of some observations in the past several weeks that were alarming to me, and in fact made me reflect on my own actions. Remember that when anyone comes and talks to you, don't assume they are better than you. That's not true. We are all brothers. We're all in the same situation, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide all of us to what's right. What I want to talk about today specifically is children and how they deal with their parents. This is a critical issue because one of the great aspects of Islam is the family and how people within the family interact with each other, and specifically how children and children, I don't mean little children, like I'm a child to my mother and father, even though I'm not little. So I mean anyone who has a parent. So this applies to everyone. But the reason I felt that we needed to bring this to discussion again is because recently, in the past several weeks, I've had the opportunity to see children and parents interacting with each other in various Islamic settings. We're talking about Muslims here, I'm not talking about non-Muslims. That's a whole other topic. And what I saw and observed and found very concerning is the way in which some children speak with their parents. Behind their back and in front of them and directly towards them. I found that many young Muslims are sarcastic towards their parents, or they make fun of their parents, whether it is of their accent, their choice of words, or even their ideas that they see as outdated or not applicable, or even sometimes not the way they say things or the words they choose when they talk to their parents, but how they look at their parents. The look is important. It's not a look of love and respect, but it's a look that is a little bit, has arrogance in it. Kind of looking down on their parents, as if their parents don't know or are not knowledgeable. And they convey that in their body language and in their facial expressions. And you might say, well, how can you judge someone's facial? Maybe they just got upset. I'm not making any of this up. What I'm going to tell you is in the Quran and in the Sunnah. Okay, I'm not going to make things up. It's all from our faith. But that's what I've observed. And by the way, in the masjid. I'm not talking, outside somewhere on the street. This is me observing children and their interactions with their parents in the masjid. So these are people who actually come and pray and are members of communities of Muslims, and yet there's something missing. There's something missing. And I always wish that we had more youngsters here in the Friday prayer, but I know they have school and many of them cannot come, and I understand that. But I urge you parents to take some information from today and convey it to the youth. Convey it to them. But this also doesn't just apply to the youth. I've also seen older people, my age and even older than me, the way they treat their elderly parents. They give them that look as if they're a burden on them. Or they say things that are hurtful. They may not think it's hurtful, but you can tell that it is. And that's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. It should never exist in a Muslim family. It should never happen. Islam is not just about praying. Praying is a requirement. It's an obligation. That's the minimum, just to be part of the faith. That's not the issue. That doesn't make you a complete Muslim. It's the mannerisms and behaviors and how we conduct ourselves and how we treat each other. That's what defines who we are as Muslims. That's truly the definition of a Muslim. At least that's what the Prophet ﷺ did, because Aisha used to say, كَانَ خُلُقُهُ الْقُرْآنِ. His behaviors were those of the Quran. So he embodied Islam in his behaviors. And that's what we need to do. It's not just rituals. It's not just doing practices. But it's really how we relate and interact with each other. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, and He says it 3 times, and I'm going to read all 3 of them to you. من بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه حملته أمه وهنا على وهن. And we enjoined upon man to be good to his parents. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us an order. Okay, be good to your parents. So Allah is telling us. And when He said al-insan, just human beings. He didn't say Muslims, He didn't say the people of Medina, He didn't say the people of Mecca, He didn't say the people of Lancaster. No, He said everybody, al-insan. وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانِ. We enjoined upon all mankind, on humanity, to be good to their parents. And then He reminds us, his mother bore him in weakness and hardship upon weakness and hardship. A reminder how you came to being. If it weren't for your parents, you wouldn't exist today. You came because your mother suffered to bring you into this world. And never forget that. So Allah reminds, this Quran was not written for 2-year-olds. No, it was written for everybody. Even 80-year-olds have to read the Quran. And when they read it, that's what they're going to read. They're going to be reminded of the suffering of their mother that brought them into this world. But this is not only one time that Allah says this. He says it again. What I read to you was from Surah Luqman. In Surah Al-Ahqaf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, من بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه إحسانا حملته أمه كرها ووضعته كرها. And we have enjoined upon mankind to be good to his parents. His mother bore him with hardship, and she brings him forth with hardship. Once again, the same idea, a little different phrasing in the Arabic language, but the message is exactly the same. Exactly the same. And Allah says, وَصَّيْنَا. Wassa in Arabic means He enjoined upon you. He told you to do this. And He trusted that you are going to do it. Okay, that's the key. That's the key. When you do a wasiyyah to someone, it's after, when you're not present, they have to do it. So it's something that He expects us to do throughout our lifetime. In Surah Al-Ankabut, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, من بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه حسنا وإن جاهداك لتشرك بي ما ليس لك به علم فلا تطعهما إلي مرجعكم فأنبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. Again, He says the same thing. And we have enjoined upon mankind to be good to his parents. But if they strive to make you join with me a partner in worship, so if the parents tell them don't be a Muslim, join someone else and worship someone else besides Allah, Allah says, then do not obey them. To me is your return, and I shall tell you what you used to do. He didn't say be bad to them, He said just don't obey them. When it comes to this issue of worshiping only one Allah, that's non-negotiable. That's non-negotiable. If they ask that, sorry, I cannot obey that. I only worship one Allah, I'm a Muslim. But everything else, no, you have to be good to them. And Allah reminds us, I know exactly what you're doing. Not only does He know, He's going to tell us what we did. He said you're coming, unto me is to you return. And I will tell you exactly what you did. So be careful, Allah is watching. That's what He's telling us. He's watching. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in other parts of the Quran does something truly remarkable and amazing. As we know in Islam, our most critical creed as Muslims is that we worship one Allah and none other than Him. Right? No associates, no partners, no sons, no daughters, no spouses. Allah is one. Simple. That's Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, من بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Worship Allah and do not join none other than Him in His worship. And, this and is important. So this is the most important monumental belief in Islam, is that we worship one God, Allah. End of story. But that's not the end. He says, and. So immediately after that, the second most important thing, and do good to your parents. Immediately. That's the next item. So your first concern in life should be to worship Allah, the one and only. And your second should be your parents. Simple. The Quran is clear. And He says that not once, He says it again. من بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وقضى ربك ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه وبالوالدين إحسانا. And your Lord has decreed that you worship none but Him. And, again, same thing, and that you be good to your parents. So the same theme in the Quran over and over and over again. When Allah tells us something repeatedly, there are two issues. One, it's important, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to repeat something if it's trivial, if it's not important in our lives. When He repeats something, it's because it's important. But when He repeats something, He also repeats it because He knows we will forget it. So He reminds us repeatedly. You read different parts of the Quran, you're going to get the same message. Because He knows that the nature of young people is to drift away from their parents, is to not treat them good. So He has to kindly remind us over and over and over again to be good to your parents. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also told us of the prophets and how they treated their parents. Isa alayhi salam, when he was asked about himself, he defined himself in how good he was to his mother. He said, من بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم in Surah Maryam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَبَرًّا بِوَالِدَتِي وَلَمْ يَجْعَلْنِي جَبَّارًا شَقِيًّا. And beautiful to my mother, and he did not make me arrogant or unblessed. This is Isa alayhi salam is speaking, and he's describing himself. He said, I am going to be beautiful to my mother, and I will not be arrogant. Subhanallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about Yahya alayhi salam. Yahya, the son of Zakaria. Yahya alayhi salam. He says in Surah Maryam as well, من بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وبرا بوالديه ولم يكن جبارا عصيا. And he was dutiful towards his parents, and he was neither arrogant nor disobedient. He describes Yahya alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about Ismail alayhi salam. Ismail alayhi salam, his father Ibrahim was given an order to slaughter him. All of us know the story from the Eid al-Adha. Can you imagine something so severe? I mean, who has been tested ever like that? To slaughter your own son? And imagine the son, he could have just ran away. He could have said, Dad, are you crazy? You're going to cut my neck off? Are you out of your mind? You're a criminal. Can you do that? But he didn't. He said, Ya abati fa'al ma tu'mar. Oh my father, do whatever you have been commanded to do. He just submitted. When they both submitted, Allah tells them they both submitted to Allah, then Allah rescued him. And there was no death. Subhanallah. Ibrahim alayhi salam himself, his father was a non-believer. His father did not believe in Allah. He was an idol worshipper. He used to worship idols. And Ibrahim alayhi salam was the best example of a Muslim, of a submitter to Allah. Can you imagine the dichotomy? Father is an idol worshipper, the son is a Muslim. Now the son is trying to convince his dad to see it his way, to understand that there's only one God, and that's who you should be worshiping. What do you think he did? Did he say, oh, Dad, you're crazy, what are you doing? You're worshiping some statues, are you out of your mind? No, he didn't do that at all. He spoke with him in the most eloquent terms. Allah describes the conversation in Surah Maryam as well. من بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إذ قال لأبيه يا أبت لم تعبد ما لا يسمع ولا يبصر ولا يغني عنك شيئا. When he said to his father, in Arabic he said, Ya abati. Ya abati. In normal Arabic conversation, people say Ya abi. They don't say Ya abati. But abati has a different meaning. First of all, it is a much more respectful term. Secondly, it's my father. Okay, so it's an affirmation of the strength of the connection. Okay, so it's much different than Ya abi. And it's also a kinder, gentler choice of words. It's a word that's nice and gentle. So he's talking to his father in a friendly, kind manner. He's not harsh with him in delivering the message. And he doesn't even tell him just worship one Allah. No, first he tries to convince him that he's wrong. He tries to rationally tell him. He says, how could you worship something that cannot hear, nor can see, nor can it help you in any way? How can you worship a statue? It's a stone. At the end of the day, what can it do? Nothing. It doesn't hear you. It doesn't see you. How could you possibly worship something like that? So he's appealing to his mind. Before badgering him and telling him, what are you, crazy? Are you out of your mind? What are you doing? Worship idols? You know this is nuts. This makes no sense. No. He tried to convince him. He was kind. He wanted his father to accept Islam. He wanted his father to worship Allah. These are the examples that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us in the Quran over and over and over. And by the way, there are so many more. I mean, we don't have time. But there are so many more examples of children and their interaction with parents. And this can go on and on and on. One time, a young man came to the Prophet ﷺ and his name is Muawiyah ibn Jahim al-Salmi. He's a young man. He narrates the hadith himself. He says, I came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And what happened was that the Prophet ﷺ was preparing the army because there was going to be a battle. The non-believers were approaching and they had to fight. So this young man, with the fervor of the young, wanted to join the army. He wanted to take up jihad. He wanted to fight in the war. So he asked Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, Ya Rasulullah, I want to engage in jihad with you. And I want nothing except to please Allah. So I'm doing it not for fame, not for money. I just want to do it for the pleasure of Allah. So this young man was sincere. The Prophet ﷺ looked at him and said, is your mother alive? So that was the question. Okay, it wasn't, are you a good soldier? Do you have training? Do you know what you're doing? Do you know how to handle a sword? None of that. The first question was, do you have a mother? Specifically, is your mother alive? Ahayyatun ummuk, is your mother alive? The man said, yes, she is. He said, irja' fabirraha. Go back and be good with your mother. Go back. I don't want you in the army. He narrated the hadith, the young man. He said, well, then I waited and I came to him from a different angle. So this guy was really insistent. He wanted to join the army. He said, I'm going to come a different way. So he came in a different way to the Prophet. I asked him again to join the army. The Prophet ﷺ said, Irja' ilayha fabirraha. Go back to your mother and be good to her, for the second time. He said, but I wouldn't give up. So I tried another way, the third time, trying to convince Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And this time the Prophet ﷺ was a little fed up with him, and he said, Wayhak, how dare you? You keep coming back. I told you go back to your mother. You keep coming back to me. Wayhak, is your mother still alive? And he said, yes, she's still alive. He said, be by her feet, because that is where Jannah is. That is where the Jannah is. Go by her, stay by her feet. Ilzam rijlaha. Stay by her feet. فَثَمَّ الْجَنَّةِ. That is where Jannah is. Subhanallah. He said, after that I didn't come. I said, no more. He learned his lesson. Subhanallah. A man came to the Prophet ﷺ, and this man, he was from the tribe of Bani Salama, and his parents died. So he now has no parents. They died. So he said, Ya Rasulullah, my parents have died. Do I owe them anything? They're done. Do I still have to do anything for them? Or is it over? Are my duties finished as a son? Or do I still have duties towards my parents? The Prophet ﷺ said, no, you're not done. You're not done. You still have a lot. He said, what do I have? What do I have to do? He said, as-salatu alayhima, wal-istighfaru lahuma, وإنفاذ عهدهما من بعدهما وصلة الرحم التي لا توصل إلا بهما وإكرام صديقهما. He said, you have several things you have to do. It's all one list. First thing is ask for Allah's blessings upon them. That's the first thing. Ask Allah to forgive them. Fulfill any promises that they did not fulfill in their lifetime. Make sure you connect with your kin, your family, your extended family, your uncles and aunts, all the relatives of your parents. But it doesn't even end there. And be hospitable to their friends. Don't forget their friends. Subhanallah. Be good to their friends. Subhanallah. That's how it extends. It never ends. Don't think the parents are dead, it's over. No, it's not over. It goes on throughout your lifetime. Subhanallah al-Azim. One time, Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, Abdullah ibn Umar is the son of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu. And Abdullah ibn Umar was a scholar in his own right. He was one of the 4 Abdullah scholars of Medina, so he was very famous and very knowledgeable. One time he was with a group of people and he was on a trip from Medina to Mecca. So he was traveling from Medina to Mecca. As you know, it's desert in between Medina and Mecca. And he was with a group of people and he was riding a donkey. He didn't have a horse, he didn't have a camel, he was riding a donkey. And it was very hot. So it was scorching heat. And as they were in the desert, they saw a Bedouin. In Arabic they call them Al-A'rab. Al-A'rab are the Bedouins. These are nomads. They live in the desert. And this particular Bedouin was very poor. He had no money. You could tell by looking at him that he was very, very poor. So poor, in fact, that he didn't have a horse or a camel. He was walking. He was on his feet. He was trying to go from one place to another in the desert, on his feet, in the scorching heat. He didn't even have a head cover, because many times they wore a hamama or something to protect their head from the sun. But he didn't have anything. That's how poor this guy was. When Abdullah ibn Umar saw him, he stopped and he greeted him. And he said, "Where are you going?" He said, "Oh, I'm traveling from here, I'm walking." So he got down from the donkey and he asked this young man, this Bedouin, to ride on his donkey. And then he took off his turban, his amama, he took it off and he put it on the head of this young man. And he said, "Okay, let's go." And they started going. Abdullah ibn Umar is walking and this Arabi, this poor guy, is riding on the donkey and he has the turban of Abdullah ibn Umar on his head. And Abdullah ibn Umar doesn't have anything. The people who were with Abdullah ibn Umar were surprised by this. Who is this guy? And how does Abdullah ibn Umar know him? I mean, he knows him and he's treating him with such kindness that he actually gave him his donkey to ride on and his turban. Something's up. They didn't know what's going on. But they didn't say anything. Finally, they reached the destination of this young man and he gave the turban back and he stepped off the donkey and he went about his way. And Abdullah ibn Umar went back on the donkey. He said, "Okay, now let's continue our journey to Mecca." The people who were with Abdullah ibn Umar, they said, "You are the faqih of Medina, and you are the scholar. Who is this guy? I mean, he's a poor Bedouin. He could have been satisfied with much less than what you did." You see how arrogance sometimes comes. Oh, he could have, it just means just give him some money, he would have been happy. You don't have to sit there and give him the donkey and go out of our way to reach and give him your turban to wear. Who is this guy? He's so poor, he would have been satisfied with much less than what you did. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma is a man who is scholarly, who knows Islam the way we should know it. He said, "No. This man's father was the best friend of Umar ibn Khattab. That's why I treated him that way. This man's father, كان ودا لأبي عمر. He was a friend of my father, Umar ibn Khattab. That's why I treated him with such kindness and hospitality." Subhanallah. We have so much to learn, it's unbelievable. But that's how they thought of their parents. That's how they treat. After Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu was dead, he was gone. And this man's father was dead also. But he said, this man's father and my father were good friends. We're good friends. That's why I treated him with such kindness. Subhanallah al-Azim. Zayn al-Abideen Ali ibn al-Hussein. So this is Ali, the son of al-Hussein, the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Radiyallahu anhum ajma'in. So this is the son of the grandson of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His name is Ali ibn al-Hussein. And he was a scholar in his own right. Ali ibn al-Hussein was known for being good to his mother. And one day, he was at home with some family, with his mother. And they were eating. And like most families, they had the main dish was, the main food was in a dish, and they were sharing it. But Ali ibn Hussein was not eating. So everyone took some food from the dish, but he didn't. He just sat there watching. And after his mother finished eating, then he started to eat. So the people who were there were surprised by this action. They said, Zayn al-Abideen, a scholar, why didn't you eat with the rest of us? I mean, why did you wait? He said, because I wanted my mother to finish eating first. They said, why? I mean, there's so much food. It's full. He said, I was afraid that my hand would reach for a portion of the dish that she had her eye on. And in doing so, I would prevent her from having the portion that she liked. Subhanallah. Can you imagine the sensitivity? Subhanallah. Look at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran. من بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إما يبلغن عندك الكبر أحدهما أو كلاهما فلا تقل لهما أف ولا تنهرهما وقل لهما قولا كريما. And if one of them or both of them, so Allah is telling us about our parents, if one of them or both of them attain an older age in your lifetime, then do not say to them, the word uff in Arabic is a very short word, it's only 2 letters. But perhaps the best English translation is, oh, some expression of disrespect. Some expression of dislike, of discontent. Remember I told you I saw people looking at their parents the wrong way? This is what this is talking about. He says, do not do it. Do not utter that word of disrespect, nor shout at them. Can you imagine? So this is not shouting. Off is not shouting. This is even something less than that. Because he says, do not shout. Do not shout at them. But address them in honorable terms. When you talk to your parents, you talk to them in an honorable and noble way. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي. الحمد لله ولي الصالحين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Al-Fadl ibn Yahya, he was one of the tabi'in, and he and his father were imprisoned unjustly. They did not do anything, but it was at the time in the Muslim Ummah where there was a lot of political turmoil. And he and his father were thrown into jail. And they were in the same cell. And his father was much older. He was an elderly gentleman. And what they would do in the prison is they would give them a bucket of water. So they didn't have faucets, of course, like we have now. So they would give them a bucket of water, and they would use that water to do the wudu in the morning, because they have to pray Fajr. So the prisoner would wake up and do the wudu and pray Fajr. And in the cell that they were imprisoned in, there was a lantern, a little lamp. And the lamp, they would put some oil and they would light it up, and there would be a flame, and that would be the light. Al-Fadl ibn Yahya would wait for his father to fall asleep. And then he would take the bucket of water and he would hold it over the lamp. So the lantern is there, it's a little flame, and he would hold it so the water can be warm by the morning. By the time morning comes, it will be warm so that his father would perform wudu in warm water. Subhanallah. And it was cold. This was in the winter time. And he would do that for his father. The problem was that after a few days, the guards in the prison, they saw him doing this in the middle of the night. So to kind of make his life miserable, I mean, he's a prisoner, so he shouldn't have a good life, they took away the lantern. They said, no more, you're not going to have a lantern anymore. So now he had a problem. How is he going to heat the water for his father? So that when the father wakes up to pray Fajr, he will have some warm water. So you know what he did? All night long he took the bucket and he held it close to his body. And he used his body temperature to warm up the bucket of water for his father. So that when he wakes up to do the wudu, the water will not be cold. Subhanallah. That's how these people treated their parents. How dare we give our parent the wrong look? How dare we say the wrong word? How dare we hurt them in any way? I'm talking hurting their feelings in any way. You know, when your parents, when their feelings are hurt, they don't tell you that their feelings are. They just swallow it. But we should be wise enough to know when we are doing something wrong. Be careful. Be attentive. The Prophet ﷺ said, and this is the last thing I'm going to tell you, and it is a scary thing. This is a hadith narrated by Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma. We just talked about him. He said, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ثلاثة لا ينظر الله إليهم يوم القيامة. 3 people, Allah will not even look at them on the day of resurrection. Can you imagine? When Allah ignores you, basically that means you were so terrible that Allah is just going to ignore you on the day of resurrection. He's not going to even look at you. You're not even worthy of the look of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 3 kinds of people. Who are these people? The first one, al-'aqu li walidayhi, the one who mistreats his parents. That's the first one. Number 1. Not the killer, not the thief, no. The person who mistreats his parents. Al-'aqu li walidayhi. Wa mudminu al-khamr, and the one who drinks alcohol and is addicted to it, drinks constantly. Wal-mannan, and someone who gives people sadaqah and then he tells them, oh, remember I gave you? Remember I helped you? And he keeps badgering them that he did something good to them. He was not sincere in his giving. Subhanallah. He was actually committing shirk, the shirk of riyah. He was trying to boast about how good he is because he wants people to say how excellent he is rather than doing it for the sake of Allah. Those are the 3. But the first one is the person who mistreats his parents. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت فإنك تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك وإنه لا يذل من واليت ولا يعز من عاديت تباركت ربنا وتعاليت لك الحمد على ما قضيت ولك الشكر على ما أنعمت به وأوليت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك اللهم اهدنا لصالح الأعمال لا يهدي لصالحها إلا أنت اللهم اهدنا لأحسن الأخلاق لا يهدي لأحسنها إلا أنت اللهم أصلح لنا ديننا الذي هو عصمة أمرنا وأصلح لنا دنيانا التي فيها معاشنا وأصلح لنا آخرتنا التي إليها مردنا اللهم اكفنا بحلالك عن حرامك وبطاعتك عن معصيتك وبفضلك عن من سواك اللهم بفضلك ورحمتك أعلي كلمتي الحق والدين اللهم انصر الإسلام وأعز المسلمين اللهم انصر الإسلام وأعز المسلمين. اللهم انصر الإسلام وأعز المسلمين بفضلك ورحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين، إنك يا ربنا على ما تشاء قدير وبالإجابة جدير. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا، وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين.